TIFU, by trying to impress my boss with a quick solution to a critical problem at work and accidentally causing a huge meltdown in the entire company's system. So, let me set the scene for you. I work in IT at a fairly large company. It's not a big-name tech company or anything, but it's a corporation that relies heavily on its IT infrastructure to keep things running smoothly. Think of it like the backbone of the whole operation. If something goes wrong, it can send the entire company into a frenzy. Anyway, the IT department was small, so when something went wrong, it was usually on me to fix it. I'm a fairly competent tech person, but I'm not exactly a genius. I can handle the everyday issues, but anything more complex tends to be over my head. This happened on a Thursday afternoon. I'd been dealing with a series of minor issues all day, printer malfunctions, slow internet speeds, that kind of thing, when I got a panic-filled message from my boss. Let's call her Sarah. Sarah was the head of marketing, but she was very hands-on and always liked to know what was going on with the tech side of things. She wasn't technically inclined, but she had a tendency to ask a lot of questions. If she was asking about a problem, that usually meant it was urgent. The message I got from Sarah was vague but alarming. We're having a problem with the main marketing database. It's running super slow. Can you take a look at it? Now, that's not the kind of thing you want to hear on a Thursday afternoon when the whole team is counting on you to fix things quickly. I immediately dropped what I was doing and logged into the system to investigate. I was hoping it would be a minor issue, maybe a corrupted file, or something that could be easily fixed. But when I pulled up the database, I saw that it was completely overloaded. There were thousands of queries stacked up, all waiting to be processed, and the system was grinding to a halt. It was as if someone had cranked the volume up to 11, and everything was just getting jammed. Not good. I started poking around, trying to figure out what was going on. After a few minutes of investigating, I found that there was a specific query that had been running for hours, and it was eating up all the system's resources. It was part of a routine report Sarah's team had been working on. Apparently, someone on her team had tried to generate a report, and it had been stuck in a loop, causing a massive bottleneck. At first, I thought, okay, no big deal. I can just kill this query, and everything will be fine. I knew I had to do this quickly, so I didn't bother running the usual diagnostic tools or checking the logs to see if there were any underlying issues. I was trying to impress Sarah and get it fixed as fast as possible, so I jumped straight to the solution. I went into the server's admin panel, found the query, and killed it. Normally, this would have been the end of it. The query would stop, and the system would clear up the resources, allowing everything to go back to normal. But for some reason, this time it didn't work as expected. The system didn't just stop the query, it went into complete meltdown mode. The database started crashing, and the entire server went down. It wasn't just the marketing team's database. It was like I had triggered a chain reaction that impacted other parts of the system. Before I could even react, my screen froze. I tried to reopen the admin panel, but nothing was loading. I looked over at my work inbox, and sure enough, there was already a notification from Sarah. Why is the database down? Panic set in. I tried to reboot the server, but that only made things worse. It started spiraling out of control, and I realized I had no idea how to stop it. I could hear my coworkers on the other side of the office talking in hushed voices, probably trying to figure out what the hell had just happened. The IT department was a small team of 3 people, and they were now getting involved, but it wasn't enough to stop the mess I'd created. It felt like everything I touched was breaking. My phone started buzzing with messages from Sarah, and the other employees were becoming more and more frantic. A few minutes later, I received an email from the head of operations saying, "The entire system is down. We need you to fix this ASAP." I knew I had to admit what happened, but I was too embarrassed. I didn't want to tell Sarah I'd tried to take a shortcut and mess things up even worse. So, I tried to resolve it without asking for help, which was a terrible idea. But no matter what I did, I couldn't get the servers back online. The entire company's workflow was down. And here's the kicker. The marketing report that caused all of this was not even that important. It was just some internal analysis that Sarah's team had been working on, and now I had taken down the whole company for it. By the time my manager showed up, I had already broken into a cold sweat. My palms were clammy, and I was about to burst into a full-blown panic attack. My manager's face fell when they saw the state of the servers. "What happened?" they asked. I tried to fix it quickly, I mumbled, but I think I might have made it worse. We spent the next several hours working with the rest of the IT team, trying to get the servers back up. It wasn't until late in the evening that everything was back online. In total, the system was down for over 6 hours, and the marketing team's report was never even finished. The entire day had been a massive disaster. As for Sarah, she wasn't exactly thrilled, but she was understanding. She thanked me for working through the night to get everything back up, but I could tell she was disappointed. I had tried to impress her by fixing a minor problem quickly, and instead, I had broken the entire system. The worst part was that my boss, Sarah, never knew exactly how much I had messed up. I'm sure she had some idea, but in the end, she was just relieved that everything was working again. I, on the other hand, have never been so mortified in my life. I learned a very important lesson that day. Don't try to fix things fast without understanding the full scope of the problem. And definitely don't try to impress your boss when it comes to IT. I haven't made that mistake again. But every time I see Sarah walking around the office, I feel my heart skip a beat. That day still haunts me. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps the content grow and motivates me to create even more great videos. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any new uploads. By the way, I'm curious, when do you usually watch my videos? While working, studying, or just relaxing at home? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your support.
TIFU.
Not today, but over the course of 3 years, culminating in a public disaster that still haunts me every time someone switches on the TV in my family's living room. It all started innocently. I was working in a mid-sized marketing firm in Chicago. We were a diverse team, and I always tried to make people feel included, which in hindsight sounds noble, but in reality was the fertile soil for this growing vine of lies. One day during a team lunch, our newest hire, Carmen, who had just moved from Mexico, sat down beside me. She was shy, reserved, and visibly nervous about speaking English. Someone asked, "Does anyone speak Spanish?" Without thinking, and I mean without a single neuron consulting the others, I blurted out, "I do." Now, I had some basis. My high school Spanish was decent, and I'd binge-watched Narcos without subtitles, which I believed counted for something at the time. Carmen's eyes lit up, and I guess I couldn't bear to disappoint her. So I translated her order to the waiter. And, to my own surprise, I got it right. Encouraged, she began chatting with me in Spanish. I understood most of it, and answered with a mix of high school grammar, half-remembered Duolingo phrases, and raw improvisation. It was clunky, but it worked. Everyone at the table was impressed. I had a new identity now. Jake, the guy who's fluent in Spanish. I could have stopped there. I should have stopped there. But no, I leaned in. I downloaded Spanish podcasts. I practiced with Carmen. I corrected coworkers' Spanish emails. I even began translating marketing materials into Spanish. Somehow, by the time 6 months had passed, I was handling most of the company's Hispanic outreach initiatives. Carmen vouched for me, probably because I was the only one who made the effort. I guess she assumed my grammatical oddities were just me being quirky. Fast forward 2 years, and our firm gets nominated for a regional marketing award for a campaign we ran targeting bilingual households.
It was my campaign.
Well, my team's. But since I had written the Spanish copy and presented to several Hispanic-focused organizations, I was the face of it. Then came the real screw-up. We got invited to a live morning show in Chicago. They were doing a segment on how small businesses were reaching out to diverse communities. The producers asked if someone bilingual could come on and talk about the campaign. Guess who got volunteered?
I tried to weasel out.
I really did. Public speaking isn't my thing, I said. What about Carmen? But Carmen had just gone on maternity leave. My manager was thrilled. Jake, this is your moment. You'll represent the company and the Spanish-speaking community. I barely slept that night. I kept telling myself, just memorize the talking points.
Stick to English.
Keep it high level. I arrive at the station the next morning. I'm greeted by the producer, who says in Spanish, "We'll be doing half the interview in Spanish, that okay?" I nearly sh*t myself. I considered running, just sprinting out of the studio, down the hallway, past security, and into the sunrise. But I froze. I smiled. I nodded. "See, Claro," I said, which might as well have been the moment I signed my own social death warrant. So I go live. Cameras rolling. Bright lights. The host starts in English, soft questions. I'm doing fine, just giving PR-safe answers. Then she transitions, seamlessly, beautifully, to Spanish. I tried. I really did. My response came out like someone trying to speak Spanish after getting hit on the head with a frying pan. I mixed up tenses. I used the word embarazada thinking it meant embarrassed. It means pregnant. I called the Hispanic market mercado histérico, which loosely translates to hysterical market. I referred to our clients as los clientes muertos, which means the dead clients. I meant past clients. The host blinked. I think she thought I was having a stroke. People started laughing off camera. I panicked. I switched back to English mid-answer, but my mouth was dry and I couldn't find the words. It was like my brain had been unplugged. Then the host, gently, also switched back to English and started steering the ship as politely as possible. The segment ended. I left the studio drenched in flop sweat, shaking. I had texted my manager that it went fine, all things considered. But the clip went viral. Someone posted it to Twitter under the caption, "When you lie on your resume," and suddenly, I was a meme. My horrendous Spanglish performance was looped with reggaeton music in the background. Someone auto-tuned my sentence about clients muertos and made it a SoundCloud remix. Carmen texted me a skull emoji. HR called me in for a discussion. I wasn't fired, but I was gently encouraged to reframe my language proficiencies more realistically moving forward. My boss was furious, not because of the language issue, but because I'd embarrassed the brand. To this day, people in the office jokingly say mercado histérico anytime a campaign starts going sideways. At the Christmas party, someone printed clients muertos on a cake. I've since taken actual Spanish classes, and I can now hold a conversation without accidentally calling a client deceased or pregnant. But the damage is eternal. And that clip? Yeah, it's on YouTube. My face is the thumbnail. My legacy is sealed. TIFU by trying to impress my girlfriend with my cooking skills and almost setting my apartment on fire. So, to give you some context, I, 26M, have been dating my girlfriend, Laura, 25F, for about 6 months now. Things have been going really well, and I think we've both started feeling comfortable enough to start trying more couple-wide things. Like cooking dinner together, watching movies, and spending time at each other's places. Honestly, I'm all in for it. I've got some past trauma from bad relationships where things felt forced, so I'm just trying to keep things chill, open, and fun. I'm not the most experienced when it comes to cooking, but I figured that I could give it a go and impress her by making a fancy dinner. You know, something that says, "Hey, I care about you. I'm willing to learn, and I'm capable of being a good partner." So, naturally, I decided to cook her a homemade dinner: steak, mashed potatoes, and a side of roasted vegetables. Simple, right? The kind of meal that says, "I'm an adult who can do this." Now, I'm not a complete novice in the kitchen, but I'm definitely not a chef either. I've cooked the basics, made some pasta, scrambled eggs, a couple of stir-fries here and there, but this was next level for me. But I was determined. I spent the whole morning gathering ingredients, looking up recipes, watching a couple of YouTube videos for the perfect steak. I was feeling confident. How hard could it be, right? I had all the tools laid out: a cast iron skillet for the steak, a pot for the mashed potatoes, and a baking sheet for the veggies. I even got some fresh rosemary to make it smell like a professional restaurant. I was setting myself up for a masterpiece. So Laura came over around 6:30 p.m., and I had just started cooking.
She was really excited about it.
I could tell she was impressed that I was cooking at all. We chatted, had a glass of wine, and everything was going smoothly. She even said, "This smells amazing," which honestly felt like a huge win. I figured if nothing else, the house smelled good, so I was on track. Then the trouble started. It was time to sear the steak. I've seen this done a million times on cooking shows. You sear it for a few minutes on each side to get that golden brown crust and then pop it in the oven to finish cooking. Seems simple enough, right? Well, here's where I went wrong. I had my skillet way too hot. I had read somewhere online that you need your pan to be smoking hot for the perfect sear, so I cranked the heat all the way up. I threw the steak on, and almost immediately, a giant puff of smoke shot up from the pan. My apartment is not the best ventilated, but I thought, okay, just keep going. It's fine.
It's supposed to be smoky.
But then, the smoke detector went off. Loudly. I panicked. It was as if my brain just turned to mush. The steak was sitting in a pan, starting to blacken and burn, and the smoke detector was screeching like it was about to alert the entire building. Laura looked at me, startled, and I was frantically waving a towel at the smoke detector, trying to silence it. I turned off the stove, but the steak was already too far gone. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "Do you need some help?" Laura asked, trying to suppress her giggles. I could tell she was trying to be supportive, but there was no way to salvage the situation at this point. In a desperate attempt to salvage my pride, I grabbed the ruined steak and threw it on the cutting board. It was charred on one side, raw on the other, and there was no way it could be served without looking like I was trying to set up a crime scene with a piece of beef. I had been so focused on making the steak perfect that I totally forgot about the potatoes and vegetables. They were both overcooked and mushy. So now I was looking at an inedible steak, mashed potatoes that resembled baby food, and limp, soggy vegetables. Laura, bless her heart, tried to be kind. She grabbed a bite of the mashed potatoes and said, these are really creamy." But I could tell that even she wasn't sure if she was saying it to be polite or because she honestly thought they were bad. The smoke had finally cleared, and I opened the windows to air the place out. Laura and I sat down to a sad, sorry excuse for a meal. The room still smelled like burned steak, and I felt like the biggest idiot. She tried to reassure me, but it was clear that the dinner was a disaster. The vibe had shifted from "let's have a nice dinner together" to "let's just laugh about how bad this turned out." I told her, "I'm sorry. I thought I could pull this off." She smiled, and for a second I felt a little better. She didn't seem mad, but she did point out that this was definitely a learning experience. "I appreciate the effort," she said. "And next time, we can just order pizza." We both laughed, and the mood lightened. Afterward, we cleaned up together, and I tried to make the best of it by suggesting we watch a movie and just hang out. In the end, the night wasn't ruined, but it wasn't what I had envisioned either. Looking back, I realized how ridiculous I had been. I didn't need to cook the perfect meal to impress her. All I had to do was show up, be myself, and not overcomplicate things. The most important thing wasn't the food, it was the time we spent together. So, while my cooking experiment ended in disaster, I did learn a valuable lesson. Don't try to impress someone with things you're not good at. Keep it simple, and if it goes wrong, just laugh about it together. You'll both be better off for it. Moral of the story: never trust a smoking hot pan with your dignity. Oh, and don't cook steak without knowing exactly what the hell you're doing. That's a hard lesson learned. TIFU by sending a text to my mom that was meant for my girlfriend, and it ruined everything. I've always been pretty good with my phone. Well, at least in the sense that I rarely make mistakes when texting. I like to think of myself as a little bit of a perfectionist when it comes to communication, especially because I've had a few awkward experiences in the past. That's why when it happened, I was absolutely horrified. It all started last week. I'm in my mid-20s, and I've been dating this amazing woman, Lily, for about 6 months now. Things are going great. She's intelligent, funny, beautiful, and, importantly, we just click on every level. We've already started talking about the future, and I'm genuinely thinking she could be the one. But, as great as things are with Lily, I've also got a pretty close relationship with my mom. We talk every couple of days, mostly about life, random things, and to be honest, sometimes pretty petty stuff. If I'm honest, she's a little over-involved in my personal life. I've been trying to get her to let me grow up and make my own decisions, but she's always been one to ask a lot of questions. So, this was just a regular day for me. Lily and I had spent the whole day together, grabbing brunch, going for a hike, and just lounging at my place. We'd even talked about taking a trip together, something I was both excited about and terrified of because it was definitely one of those we're taking the next step in our relationship kind of things. Later that evening, I had dinner with my family. It was a casual affair, just the usual chatter. At one point, my mom started prying into my relationship with Lily, as she often does. She's always been kind of protective of me and likes to make sure she's giving me the right advice. Are you sure about her? Mom asked, leaning over the table, giving me that typical concerned look. You know, sometimes relationships look perfect on the surface, but they can unravel in ways you don't see coming. I could tell where this was going. Mom's been known to take issue with some of my past relationships, often in a subtle way. But Lily was different. She was the first girlfriend in a while that I actually felt my mom would like, and I wanted her to see that. So, I tried my best to brush it off and reassure her that everything was fine. Yeah, she's great. We're really happy, I said, hoping my mom would let it go. But then my mom dropped the bomb. Well, I hope she's not just using you. You know, some people don't have the best intentions. I swear to God, hearing her say that made my blood boil. It was like she didn't trust me to make my own decisions. Mom, we're fine. She's a good person. I'm not a kid anymore, I said, more defensively than I meant to. At that point, my dad chimed in, but it was clear my mom wasn't backing down. She kept going on and on about her concerns and how I should take things slow and make sure I wasn't getting too ahead of myself. I was frustrated, to say the least. So after dinner, I texted Lily about what had happened, mainly to vent a little. I thought I was sending her a message to calm down and explain what had been going on. But I was also sending a message to my mom, who had been texting me in the background, which led to a minor disaster. Here's where things get tricky. See, I have my mom saved as Mom in my contacts and Lily as Lily. But I also have a habit of texting multiple people at once, something I know I shouldn't do, but it's just how I roll sometimes. So, as I was typing my message to Lily, I meant to send something like this. Ugh, Mom is being super annoying tonight. She keeps asking about you and questioning everything. I just want her to chill out and let me make my own decisions. Honestly, I can't deal with her sometimes. But instead of sending it to Lily, I accidentally sent it to my mom. Here's the kicker. After hitting send, I didn't even realize it for about a minute. I went about scrolling through Instagram, checking my messages, and trying to distract myself from the whole conversation. Then my phone buzzed. It was a reply from my mom. Are you kidding me? Why would you say that about me? You know I'm just trying to look out for you. I can't believe you would talk to her like that. I was just trying to be a good mom. And that's when I realized what I'd done. My stomach dropped. The worst part was, I didn't just make a casual mistake. I had sent my mom a text that basically confirmed all her worst fears, that I was getting too close to someone, not making wise choices, and being dismissive of her feelings. I immediately tried to fix things, but by the time I started typing an apology, my mom was already sending me multiple texts, all of which were increasingly passive-aggressive. You think I'm just annoying you? All I do is care, and you're throwing it back in my face. You don't need to protect her from me. I know she's perfect in your eyes, but I'm your mom, and I have a right to be concerned. I stared at my screen, completely paralyzed. I couldn't decide whether to ignore it or try to apologize. I didn't even know how to come back from this. So I did what anyone would do in a crisis. I called Lily. Hey, so something happened, I said when she picked up. What's up? She asked, her voice light and playful. I could hear her smiling through the phone. Okay, so I accidentally texted my mom the message I was sending you, and well, let's just say she's not happy. She's kind of freaking out. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Lily said something I wasn't expecting. Wow, that's rough. I know, I said, feeling my cheeks burn. I don't know what to do now. Well, just be honest with her, Lily suggested, sounding more mature than I felt. She's your mom. She'll come around. I took a deep breath. Yeah, I guess you're right. But it wasn't that easy. The next few hours were a blur of awkward text exchanges and my mom accusing me of being ungrateful. She even brought up the time I borrowed her car in high school without asking. Seriously, the woman never forgets anything. Eventually, I did manage to calm her down by sending a long-winded apology message. I told her I didn't mean it, that I was frustrated, and that I should have kept my feelings to myself instead of airing them out like that. It worked, kind of, but the damage was done. My mom wasn't fully convinced that Lily and I were on solid ground, and to this day, she still brings it up every time we talk.
So yeah,
That's how I ended up accidentally sending a venting message about my mom to my mom. It was mortifying, and I'm still dealing with the aftermath. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that my mom's opinions are a lot harder to manage than I thought, and now I have to navigate this whole mess without making things worse. TLDR, I accidentally sent a venting text about my mom to my mom, and it caused major drama between her and me. Now I'm stuck trying to repair the damage while still keeping things smooth with my girlfriend. TIFU by accidentally sending a nude picture to my boss and then trying to fix it. So, this happened a couple of days ago, and I still can't believe it. I'm just hoping the whole situation blows over and that my job is still secure. Let me explain how it all went down. I'm a 28-year-old marketing manager at a mid-sized tech company, and I've been working remotely since the pandemic started. My boss, Greg, is a great guy. He's fair, funny, and understanding, which is one of the reasons I've stayed at this company for as long as I have. We communicate pretty regularly over email and Slack, but the problem is that he recently started using Zoom for a lot of the work meetings. It was something that was new to both of us, but we managed. There was nothing out of the ordinary until the incident. Now, I'm not a person who normally messes up when it comes to technology. In fact, I'm usually the go-to person at the company whenever someone needs help with something tech-related. I'm not trying to brag, but I'm pretty good with my phone and computers. This is why, when I sent a picture to my boss on Slack that day, I was sure I had done everything right. So here's the setup. I had just gotten back from a long weekend, and I was feeling pretty good about life in general. My relationship with my boyfriend had been great, the weather was nice, and work had been smooth. The morning after my return, I woke up to an early message from Greg. He asked me if I could finish the last part of a presentation for our next client meeting. We had a Zoom meeting scheduled for later that afternoon, so I figured I'd get started on it right away. I usually keep my phone on silent during work hours, so I decided to check it while I had a coffee break. As I was scrolling through messages on Instagram, I saw that my boyfriend had sent me a picture. It wasn't the first time he sent me something like this. He had a habit of sending me spicy pictures when we were apart, which I loved. But I had just received his message when I noticed that my Slack app was open in the background of my phone. Now, here's the critical part. I had mistakenly left Slack open from earlier in the morning. When I checked my phone for the picture from my boyfriend, I was distracted and didn't realize that I had tapped on the Slack app to open it. The thing is, I always have the same picture preview setting on my phone for images in both Slack and Instagram. If you tap on a picture, it automatically opens in full screen. As fate would have it, Greg had messaged me earlier that morning with a reminder about the presentation. In my sleepy, distracted state, I saw the message from my boyfriend, and then I inadvertently tapped on the preview of the photo in Slack. And this is where everything went to hell. Instead of sending the picture to my boyfriend like I thought, I accidentally attached the nude image that my boyfriend had sent me directly to the Slack message with Greg. I didn't even realize what I had done until I saw the little sent notification in the top corner of my phone. I froze. I literally froze. For a split second, I thought I might have just dreamed it. Maybe it was a glitch. Maybe I just needed a coffee. But then I looked again at my screen. My heart sank into my stomach. The image was definitely sent. And it was visible. It wasn't even a small, blurry thumbnail.
No.
It was a full-screen, full-detail image. And it was explicit.
It was my boyfriend.
And it was definitely not work-appropriate. Now, I'm not a person who panics easily, but I started panicking. I'm talking full-on, hyperventilating, heart racing, sweat pouring kind of panic. I stared at my phone for a good 10 seconds in complete disbelief. What the hell do I do now? Do I just pretend it didn't happen? Do I apologize? Do I call Greg immediately and try to explain? My mind was racing. I didn't even know how to begin solving this mess. I took a deep breath and immediately opened Slack to delete the message, hoping that maybe if I deleted it fast enough, Greg wouldn't see it. But as I clicked on the message, I realized, of course, there's no way to unsend a message on Slack once it's been seen. And there was no way I was going to ask Greg if he saw the picture. That would be too awkward and he might be too embarrassed to even respond. I decided to take a different route. I panicked more. I thought about deleting the whole app. I was already deep into full meltdown mode. Then I took another deep breath, went back into the chat, and decided that I needed to at least explain myself before Greg had a chance to see the image or make any assumptions. I quickly typed out a message. Hey, Greg. I'm so sorry, but I think I just accidentally sent you a personal photo. It wasn't meant for you at all. Please don't open it. I was distracted and made a mistake. I'll explain everything later. Thanks for understanding. I hit send, and then immediately regretted it. What if he didn't understand? What if he thought I was weird or unprofessional? What if he just thought I was completely inappropriate? This is my boss, after all. Seconds turned into minutes. Then, a full 5 minutes later, I finally got a response. I held my breath as I opened the message, only to read, no worries, happens to the best of us. I've been there. Let me know when you're ready for the Zoom call. Wait, what? I reread his response several times. I still couldn't believe it. Did Greg just brush it off like that? Was he serious? Was he laughing? I didn't understand. I was expecting a more formal response. Maybe even an awkward one, like please delete that immediately or something along those lines. But nope. Greg wasn't fazed at all. I immediately called my boyfriend to tell him what happened. We both laughed awkwardly about it, and he told me that I was probably overreacting. He even said that Greg was probably just being cool about it because he was a guy too. We all make mistakes, he said, and he probably doesn't care that much. As it turns out, my boss did see the picture. And somehow he didn't care. But I still can't believe I accidentally sent something like that to him. I mean, he's my boss. I've worked for him for years. I thought I had a good relationship with him, but now I'm just hoping it doesn't affect my career or my professional reputation. I guess the lesson here is, check your messages before you send them. And maybe don't check Instagram while you're also using Slack to communicate with your boss. Also, if anyone has advice on how to properly delete a message on Slack so it never sees the light of day, I'd love to hear it. TLDR, accidentally sent a nude to my boss because I was distracted by my boyfriend's picture, then had to awkwardly explain myself. Somehow, my boss wasn't fazed and just laughed it off. Still not sure how to recover from this professionally, but at least I still have a job. TIFU by getting my boss arrested at a company event, and I'll never be able to live it down. It all started with an annual company conference, something we all looked forward to every year. For background, I work for a medium-sized marketing agency, and every year, the company hosts a big event to celebrate our achievements, bond with the team, and blow off some steam. The event was supposed to be a fun and casual affair. After all, we work hard, and this was the one time a year we could let loose without worrying about deadlines or clients. There was always alcohol, dancing, and everyone pretending to be friends for a few hours, all with the hope that we wouldn't do anything too embarrassing. This year, the company had booked a venue with a beautiful rooftop terrace, a DJ, and an open bar that was supposed to run from 7 p.m. until midnight. Naturally, everyone was in high spirits and ready to make the most of the evening. But I had one small problem. My boss, Linda, who is notoriously uptight and awkward at social events, was the person in charge of keeping everything under control. Linda is a no-nonsense, buttoned-up type of woman, the kind of boss who calls meetings at 8 a.m. on a Saturday and expects you to give her your weekend plans ahead of time. So, as you can imagine, the idea of her letting loose at a company event was almost laughable. Now, I had been at the company for a couple of years and had gotten to know a few people in the office pretty well, so I was excited for the event. I wanted to let loose and enjoy myself, but I knew that Linda would be lurking around, watching everyone like a hawk. I wasn't sure how much freedom we were allowed, especially when it came to alcohol. But what I didn't know was that the evening would end in chaos. The event kicked off as expected. People grabbed drinks, mingled, and tried to keep things professional while still having fun. Linda gave a short and stiff opening speech, reminding everyone to behave themselves and not make a scene. Then, as she finished her speech, she made a beeline for the bar. I thought this was strange. She had always been so critical of others' drinking habits. But with a little bit of alcohol and the music pumping, people quickly started to forget about the boss's watchful eyes. About an hour into the event, I noticed that Linda had started drinking. At first, it was just a glass of wine, but soon she was sipping something a bit stronger. She had loosened up just a little, which was honestly a sight to behold. Linda, normally so uptight and serious, was actually dancing to the music and chatting with people. I'd never seen her this social before, and I admit, I thought it was kind of funny. At first, I figured it would be harmless, just a few drinks, and maybe we'd all laugh about it the next day. I had no idea what was about to happen. The evening wore on, and I had a few drinks myself. We were all having fun. However, the alcohol was starting to hit people hard. My coworkers started getting rowdy, and Linda's behavior began to take a drastic turn. She was no longer the slightly tipsy, awkwardly trying to have fun boss. She was completely letting go of the reins. The next thing I know, she was on the dance floor, aggressively busting moves I didn't know she was capable of. Her arms flailed around, her movements were erratic, and she looked like she was trying to break the floor with her dancing. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It felt like watching a completely different person. But it got worse. A few of my coworkers had gone over to the bar, trying to get some more drinks. Linda followed them there and, without missing a beat, jumped into a conversation about doing shots, something that she had always preached against. Everyone was laughing and trying to convince her to do one with them. I didn't think it was a great idea, but I didn't want to be a party pooper. And let's be real. Who doesn't want to see their uptight boss make a fool of herself every once in a while? We all watched as Linda eagerly took a shot, then another and another. She was losing her inhibitions, and I thought for a moment that she was actually having fun. It wasn't until much later that I realized things had gone too far. At some point, Linda disappeared from the party for about 20 minutes, and I thought maybe she was just in the bathroom or taking a break. But when she returned, she wasn't alone. She was accompanied by a man who looked like he could have been straight out of a low-budget action movie, bald, heavily tattooed, and wearing sunglasses indoors at night. He wasn't from the company, and nobody knew who he was. Linda was giggling uncontrollably, and she slurred, "This is my friend." I still didn't realize the extent of the situation at the time, but looking back, I should have known something was off. The night went on, but Linda's behavior kept getting more erratic. At one point, she pulled a chair out from under herself and fell straight to the floor, laughing as though it was the funniest thing ever. People were starting to whisper and exchange looks. The guy she'd brought with her had started to get really touchy-feely with her, and it was starting to seem less like innocent fun and more like something was wrong. That's when things took an unexpected turn. At some point, someone from the building staff, probably a manager or a security guard, came over and politely told Linda that her guest was not allowed to stay at the event. Apparently, the guy she'd brought was a security risk. I didn't know how they knew that, but the staff member was very insistent that he needed to leave. Linda became livid. She yelled at the staff member, calling him all kinds of names. Her shouting got louder and louder, drawing more attention from everyone in the room. Before I knew it, she'd crossed a line. In an attempt to get her to calm down, the security staff tried to escort her guest out. But then, things escalated further. Linda got in the guy's face and started shouting at him to get the hell away from her. The situation quickly became physical when Linda shoved the security guard and he went down hard on the floor. And that's when the police arrived. Apparently, someone had called the cops when Linda became increasingly out of control. Now, the police weren't here to just talk things over. They came with sirens blaring, and they immediately started questioning Linda, her friend, and anyone who had witnessed the scene. Before long, they arrested Linda for public intoxication and disorderly conduct. Her friend, who had been so quiet up until this point, suddenly became hostile too, and the cops had to subdue him. I was mortified. I hadn't even known what was happening until it was too late. I was the one who had to send an email the next morning explaining what happened, and needless to say, Linda's career was never the same after that. The company had to issue a public statement about the incident, and Linda had to take some time off. To this day, I'm the one who gets the blame for not stopping her. People still joke about it, and I can't even look her in the eye anymore. I will never forget how I accidentally got my boss arrested at a company event, and how that one night completely changed the trajectory of her career, and mine too. All because I didn't step in when I should have. TIFU big time. TIFU by accidentally turning my entire workplace into a giant game of who said it. It all started on a Wednesday morning, which is usually uneventful at my job as a marketing assistant. I work for a mid-sized company in the tech industry, and let me tell you, it's as exciting as it sounds: spreadsheets, emails, and occasional coffee breaks. The office is pretty laid back, but there's a few of us that like to joke around. We have our inside jokes, and sometimes we make up little games to spice things up. I'm the type of person who tends to get easily bored, so I often look for ways to entertain myself, especially when the work slows down. One morning, my coworker Sarah, who's been with the company longer than me, mentioned how much she loved this new podcast she was listening to. It was one of those true crime ones, where the hosts are just a little too casual about the horrors they're discussing. I'm not much of a podcast person, but I enjoyed hearing her talk about it. In fact, it got me thinking, wouldn't it be hilarious if we could apply some of the storytelling techniques from these true crime podcasts to the boring, everyday conversations at the office? I decided to take it one step further and set up a little experiment. I wanted to see if I could subtly turn the office into a scene from one of those podcasts without anyone realizing. It would be a harmless joke, right? Just some fun. I thought, what if I started making a game out of it? So I got an idea. I would start narrating people's conversations with dramatic flair, almost like a true crime documentary, and see if anyone noticed. In my head, it would be hilarious. Picture this: me narrating someone's casual chat about lunch plans like it was a high-stakes crime investigation. Later that afternoon, Sarah and I were talking by the coffee machine. She mentioned she was planning to have a salad for lunch. I leaned in a little closer, trying to look serious. "Ah, yes," I said, trying to hold back a smirk. The salad. A seemingly innocent choice. But what did it really mean? Was it a cry for help? Or a calculated attempt to stay healthy amid the chaos of the corporate world? Sarah stared at me for a moment, not sure whether to laugh or be concerned. I quickly added, "You never know in this place. Everyone's hiding something." She gave me a weird look and walked off, but I could tell she thought I was joking. I laughed to myself and thought it was a clever touch. The next few hours, I kept up the act. Every time someone mentioned something mundane, I'd weave my dramatic commentary into it. If someone was talking about a report they were working on, I'd be like, "The report." It was more than just numbers. It was a battle for control, a struggle that would determine the future of the company. But things really escalated during an afternoon meeting. We were discussing marketing strategies for the upcoming quarter, and our boss, Dan, was going through the projected numbers. Now, Dan is a good guy, but he's got this really monotone voice that sounds like he's reading off a script for a corporate training video. I decided that he would be the perfect subject for my little experiment. As Dan spoke about the forecast for the next quarter, I started narrating in my head as if I were the host of a true crime documentary. And there, in the heart of the meeting, sat Dan, a man on the verge of a revelation. He didn't know it yet, but the fate of the company hung on the next few words he would speak. His voice was steady, but his mind? A battlefield. I held back a laugh, but it was getting harder to contain. I thought, this is going too well. And that's when things took a turn. As Dan wrapped up the presentation, I absent-mindedly muttered to myself, and with that, the room was left in suspense, awaiting the final decision that would change everything. I didn't think anyone heard me, but apparently I was wrong. Jessica, one of my more perceptive coworkers, turned around and gave me an odd look. I assumed she was just confused, but then she asked, "What are you talking about?" I panicked. I had to think fast. Nothing. Just, analyzing the presentation like it's a crime scene. You know, for fun. She stared at me for a second longer before laughing, but it wasn't the kind of laugh that made me feel like I'd nailed the joke. It was one of those awkward laughs, the kind that signals someone isn't quite sure if you're being serious or if they should be concerned for your mental state. By the end of the meeting, the tension in the room had shifted. It was subtle, but I could feel it. People were giving me these funny looks, like I'd suddenly become the office weirdo. I didn't think much of it at first. But when I headed back to my desk, I saw that everyone in the office was talking in the same odd, dramatic tone I'd been using all afternoon. For example, Karen, who usually just asked if anyone wanted to go for a walk, now said, shrouded in mystery, she was about to make a decision that would send ripples through the entire office. Was it to be the vending machine or the stairwell? The choice would change everything. I was taken aback. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence. But no, the entire office had caught on. People were narrating their own actions. One of the IT guys, Jason, came up to me with a look of mock seriousness. He walked into the server room, his heart racing. The cables would either bind him to victory, or they would undo him. I realized that what had started as a fun, quirky experiment had spiraled out of control. I tried to dial it back, but it was too late. Soon, every mundane task in the office was being treated like it was the plot of a blockbuster thriller. The way people spoke became more and more dramatic, as if they were auditioning for a role in a soap opera. By the end of the day, even Dan, our boss, was getting in on the act. As I gazed out the window, I realized the truth. There was no turning back. This quarter would define the company's future. The decision had to be made. I was mortified. What had I done? The next morning, I came in with the intention of doing my best to break the habit. But it was too late. The office had descended into madness. Every email was accompanied by ominous subject lines like urgent, the fate of the campaign is at stake, or final warning, the coffee machine was sabotaged and only one can survive. My attempts to stay quiet only made it worse. I had unintentionally turned my coworkers into a group of theater majors, each trying to outdo the other with increasingly elaborate storytelling. By Friday, I realized that the office dynamic had permanently shifted. It was no longer just a place where people worked. It had become a stage, and we were all actors in an absurd play. My coworkers would exchange knowing glances every time they spoke, waiting for the next dramatic line to be delivered. I guess I learned the hard way that sometimes trying to spice things up in a boring office can have unintended consequences. What started as a harmless joke turned into a full-blown performance art piece. I'm not sure if I'll ever live this down. Honestly, though, I'm kind of proud of how far it went. Maybe I'll try something else next week. Maybe a mystery, where we pretend someone's been sabotaging the coffee machine. I don't know. What could possibly go wrong? So this happened last weekend, and I still can't decide if I should change my name and move to a different country. I, 33M, have a close friend group from college. We're talking nearly 15 years of deep friendship, inside jokes, shared exes, drunken disasters, and more memes than the internet can handle. One of our crew, Jason, was finally tying the knot with his longtime girlfriend, Heather. We all liked her. Maybe not loved, but she was cool enough. Bit intense sometimes, but it wasn't our relationship. Jason and Heather had a beautiful wedding planned. Rustic chic vineyard setting, string quartet, the works. He asked me to be his best man, and I was honored. That meant planning the bachelor party, organizing the groomsmen, keeping him sane. All easy. But I also had one other duty. The best man speech. I decided to do something unique. I've done stand-up. I'm a bit of a storyteller, and I thought, what if I did a funny, heartfelt PowerPoint presentation as my speech? Like a TED Talk on the evolution of Jason, from beer pong king to husband material. I thought it was a solid idea. I ran it by a couple of mutual friends who said it sounded hilarious and very me. So, I got to work. I dug deep. College photos, goofy videos, even a blurry Snapchat from a night he somehow lost his pants in a Denny's. But I also included wholesome stuff. Him volunteering at a dog shelter, his graduation, his first real job. Then I added the romantic arc. Him meeting Heather, texts he sent me when he fell for her, nothing too private, cute photos of the two of them, etc. Here's where things went wrong. To end the speech, I had this idea to play a short montage titled The Many Loves of Jason. It was supposed to be a 90-second video of fake tributes to Jason's past crushes, like clips of Angelina Jolie from Tomb Raider, Jessica Rabbit, a couple of our female college friends doing quick bits like, Jason always said I made the best ramen. Maybe that's why he kept coming over. It was supposed to be funny. But my fatal mistake, the kind that haunts your soul at night, was that I didn't double-check the final cut of the video before the wedding. I had rendered it a few nights before, after drinking wine and staying up way too late. I guess I pulled in the wrong version. Or maybe the right version but from the wrong folder. I don't even know anymore. So fast forward to the reception. Everyone's had some wine. The string quartet is gone. The DJ is setting up. The mic is handed to me. I click the little remote, and my glorious PowerPoint begins. It's killing. The photos of young Jason get big laughs. The dog shelter stuff makes people go, "Aw." I'm nailing the balance between humor and sentiment. Then I say, and now a little tribute to the many phases of Jason's heart, the loves before he found the one. I press play, and chaos begins. The first 30 seconds are fine. The goofy joke clips and animated hearts and 2000s rom-com music. Then, somehow, it transitions into a series of short clips that were never meant for public consumption. I don't mean porn, thankfully, but very real, very raw, very unfiltered video messages and selfies that Jason's actual exes had sent him over the years. Like, one clip of his college girlfriend crying and saying, "I'll always love you no matter what." Another of a girl he hooked up with in Thailand saying, "I miss your smell," and another where a girl, I kid you not, is singing a slow, off-key version of Torn by Natalie Imbruglia directly into the camera. Some of the clips had timestamps, names. Some had clearly been recorded during breakups. And here's the worst part. Heather's face. She starts out smiling, kind of confused. Then her smile drops. Then it hardens into this look I can only describe as a mix between "I will murder everyone in this room" and "I now believe in arranged marriages." Jason is frozen.
Pale.
The rest of the crowd is laughing, but awkwardly, that kind of "are we supposed to be watching this?" laughter that fades into stunned silence. I realize something's off. I fumble to stop the video. Hit escape. Nothing. I yank the HDMI cable out of the laptop. The screen goes black. There's a beat of dead silence. I say, "Well, that wasn't in the script." Heather gets up and storms, out of the room. Jason hesitates, then follows her. The room erupts. Some people are trying to laugh it off. Some of Heather's family are glaring daggers at me. One older aunt muttered, "This is why you don't have male friends," loud enough for people to hear. I want the earth to open and swallow me. The rest of the night is a blur. Heather eventually comes back, but the mood is ruined. They skip the first dance. People start leaving early. Jason texts me at 2 a.m. saying, "We need to talk." The next day, we do. I go to his hotel room with the most humble pastries I could find and apologize profusely. Turns out those video clips were from an old backup folder Jason had sent me years ago when we were consolidating files for a college reunion project. I don't even remember having them, but apparently I had them, and I used them. In his wedding. In front of his wife. His new wife. He's surprisingly calm about it. Maybe too calm. Like he's in shock. He says Heather is processing things and that I should give it time. Which is code for "you may never be allowed near us again." I haven't heard from Heather. I don't expect to. The rest of the group chat has lit up with everything from "dude, what the actual hell" to "iconic, but you're a monster." One friend made a meme out of my face with the caption, "Press F to end friendships." So yeah, I was trying to be the funny, memorable best man. I succeeded. But at what cost? Hey, friends. If you enjoy this content, don't forget to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We really want to know what you like and what can be improved. What do you think of the video? Are there any topics you'd like to see in future videos? Your feedback really helps us get better. Thanks for being with us. TIFU by bringing my girlfriend to a family game night that turned into a psychological war zone. So this happened about 2 months ago, and it still haunts me. It was supposed to be a wholesome evening. My parents were hosting one of their traditional game nights. These are big deals in my family. There's food, drinks, board games, and more competitiveness than the Olympics. Everyone brings their A game. My cousins, uncles, aunts. It's like a gladiator arena but with Pictionary and deviled eggs. I'd been dating my girlfriend Jenna for about 5 months at the time. She's smart, funny, gorgeous, and completely unaware of what she was walking into. I had warned her lightly that my family takes games seriously, but in my mind, it was charming. I didn't think anything dramatic could really happen. I underestimated, and I underestimated hard. We arrive at my parents' house. Jenna brings a bottle of wine. My mom falls in love with her instantly, and things are going great. My dad fires up the grill. My uncle is telling inappropriate jokes by the fire pit, and I think, wow, this is going way smoother than I expected. Then the games begin. First round, charades. Harmless enough. My cousin Trevor starts flopping around like a dying fish, trying to mime the shape of water. Jenna guesses it in 5 seconds. Everyone cheers. My team wins. Spirits are high. I'm feeling like a genius for bringing her. Then my Aunt Susan brings out the beast, Mafia. Now, if you're not familiar, Mafia is a party game where players are assigned secret roles. The Mafia, the townspeople, a detective, and a doctor. Each night, the Mafia kills someone, and during the day, everyone debates who they think the Mafia is. You vote people out. It's like Among Us without the spaceships, and it gets people fired up. In my family, it turns into a psychological knife fight. We all sit in a circle in the living room. There are 11 of us. Roles are assigned secretly with playing cards. Jenna pulls hers, smiles subtly, and says nothing.
Perfect.
The first night comes. Lights go off. Narrator says the Mafia wakes up and chooses someone. The night ends. The lights go on. Uncle Rick is dead. He groans dramatically and goes to the kitchen to make himself a whiskey sour. Then the accusations start. People start pointing fingers like they're on Law and Order. My cousin Lena swears she saw Trevor twitch when Rick was killed. Trevor fires back that Lena always gets defensive when she's Mafia. They're yelling. Jenna looks like she just walked into a live taping of Jerry Springer, Family Feud edition. It goes on like this for 5 rounds. People are fake dying left and right. Jenna is suspiciously quiet, which isn't like her. I'm thinking she's probably a townsperson trying to keep a low profile, so when someone accuses her of being Mafia, I jump in to defend her like a loyal boyfriend should. She's new, I say. She's probably just figuring it out. Let's not dogpile. Mistake. Everyone immediately turns on me. I get voted out in the next round and have to go sit at the dead corner with Rick, who is now mixing everyone cocktails and muttering about how Mafia always brings out the worst in people. From the sidelines, I watch as Jenna goes full Kaiser so's on the group. She starts subtly redirecting blame, asking just enough questions to look innocent, nodding in all the right moments. She's a damn puppet master. Over the next 20 minutes, she orchestrates the perfect takedown of every other player. One by one, the townspeople turn on each other like wolves. Trevor gets kicked out. Lena accuses the detective. My mom votes out her own husband. And at the end, Jenna wins. Mafia. Solo. She played them like a fiddle. Everyone stares at her in stunned silence. My cousin whispers, "Holy S asterisk asterisk asterisk." My mom clutches her wine glass like it betrayed her. My dad actually claps once. Just once. Not sarcastic. Just in awe. Now, this would have been legendary if it had ended there.
But no.
As the group disperses, my Aunt Susan pulls me aside in the kitchen. She looks dead serious. She whispers, "You know she can't be trusted now, right?" I laugh. I think she's joking. She's not. Apparently, in the unspoken family rulebook, if you dominate at Mafia in your first game, it labels you as untrustworthy in real life. Like, it becomes part of your character. My aunt starts listing people who've won big over the years and are now persona non grata at certain family events. There's literally a cousin who wasn't invited to a wedding because he lied too well in Mafia. I thought she was messing with me, but no. She pulls out her notes app and shows me a Mafia index she's been keeping since 2016. Jenna's name is now on it. We get in the car to leave, and Jenna is positively glowing. She had a blast. She loved the chaos. She asks if we do this often. I just nod, quietly debating how to tell her she might now be a family pariah. The fallout was something. My mom called me the next day and, in her sweetest voice, said, "Your girlfriend is very clever." Which is mom speak for I don't trust her, but I'm scared to say it out loud. My dad sent me a meme of a wolf in sheep's clothing. My cousin Trevor actually blocked me on Instagram for like a week. Lena changed her Netflix password and kicked me off the family plan. My girlfriend has unknowingly triggered a cold war in my family, and I'm caught in the middle. The worst part? They've started inviting her to more things.
Not me.
Her. She's now some weird legend. My Uncle Rick made her a mafia trophy out of wood and old beer caps. They gave it to her at Easter brunch, like it was an Olympic medal. She's hanging it in our apartment. So yeah. TIFU by unleashing a board game Bond villain into my already slightly unstable family dynamic. She's now the reigning champion of mind games, and I sleep with one eye open. Also, we're going back next month for another game night. Pray for me. TIFU by accidentally sending my boss a photo that ruined my career and my relationship at the same time. So this happened about 3 weeks ago, and I'm still crawling out of the emotional wreckage. I, 29M, work at a mid-sized marketing agency. Pretty chill place, mostly remote, and I've been climbing the ranks steadily. I've been in a committed relationship with my girlfriend, Dana, 27F, for almost 4 years. We lived together in a cozy little apartment and had been talking about getting a dog and eventually buying a house. You know, grown-up stuff. Anyway, about 2 months ago, my boss asked me to take point on a huge campaign for a luxury watch brand. This was big, the kind of client that could seriously elevate my status in the agency. Naturally, I was working around the clock. Late-night brainstorming, Zoom meetings, mock-up designs, market research. My phone became a permanent attachment to my hand. Now here's where the mess begins. My boss, Martin, is a very no-nonsense guy. Doesn't like fluff, expects quick replies, and hates missed deadlines. The man has the emotional range of a brick. But he does respect efficiency, and for that reason, I was determined to impress. One Friday night, after a particularly draining week, Dana suggested we take a break and go out for drinks with some of her coworkers. I resisted at first, but she insisted and said I needed to unwind. She was right, so I went along. We hit this trendy bar downtown. Loud music, neon lights, overpriced cocktails, the works. I wasn't really feeling it at first, but 3 gin and tonics later, I started to loosen up. Dana was mingling with her friends, I was chatting with this guy Greg from her office, and things seemed normal. Then Greg's friend Ashley showed up. Ashley is, how do I put this? A walking Instagram filter. Stunning, confident, funny in that slightly condescending way. She made it a point to sit beside me and laughed at every mildly clever thing I said. Dana didn't seem to mind at first, but by the time we were 2 rounds deeper, she shot me a look that said, "Cut it out." I did not cut it out. I wasn't flirting exactly, but I wasn't not flirting either. There was this charged moment in the middle of a conversation where Ashley touched my arm, and it lingered a bit too long. I looked at Dana. She was pretending not to notice, but her jaw was tight. We left not long after that, and the ride home was deathly quiet. I tried to say something about the music being too loud or the drinks being weak, but Dana just stared out the window. When we got home, she went straight to bed without a word. The next day, I felt like an ass. I knew I'd crossed a line. I made her coffee, brought her breakfast in bed, apologized. She brushed it off and said it was fine, but I knew it wasn't. That Saturday was awkward and tension-filled. Sunday morning, I was back in work mode. Martin had asked for updated brand concept images before Monday. I had been sketching some visual directions and wanted to send him a few for feedback. I snapped some pictures of the mock-ups on my desk with my phone. While doing this, Dana walked out of the shower, wrapped in a towel, and gave me a cold smile. Trying to lighten the mood, I snapped a picture of her too, smirking in that towel, and said, "Smile. Maybe I'll send this to Martin instead." She rolled her eyes and flipped me off playfully. What I should have done was delete that picture immediately. What I actually did was take a few more photos of my sketches, hit share, and sent them to Martin via email from my phone. Didn't think twice. About 10 minutes later, I got a reply from Martin. Interesting creative direction. I assumed the last image was a mistake. My stomach dropped. I opened my sent mail. There it was. 3 clean, minimalistic mock-up photos. And the fourth, Dana, dripping wet, wrapped in a towel, flipping off the camera with a smirk that now looked much more suggestive than I remembered. I stared at the screen for a solid minute, my soul leaving my body. I called Martin immediately, straight to voicemail. I texted him. So sorry, that was obviously not meant to be sent. Totally accidental. No reply. I walked out of the room, ready to explain the whole thing to Dana as a dumb accident, but she was sitting on the couch, staring at her phone. Her expression was unreadable. You sent that to your boss? She asked. I was sending the sketches. It was a total accident. Yeah, okay. And you just happened to take a picture of me like that after flirting with that chick all night? No, Dana, come on, it wasn't like that. I was just trying to lighten the mood. You humiliated me. I didn't send it on purpose. It was literally just a tap mistake. But you took the photo.
Why?
Just so you could look at it later? Or maybe show it off. And then the kicker. She showed me her phone. Apparently, while I was in the kitchen earlier, I'd left my laptop open. My iMessages were synced to my Mac. She'd seen a message from Ashley pop up from the night before. Too bad you're taken, winky face. I'd have let you buy me another drink.
Yeah.
So now I was the guy who flirted with another woman, took borderline intimate photos of his girlfriend without consent, and then emailed one to his boss. Martin never replied again. Monday morning, I got a call from HR. They were investigating a potential breach of company conduct. I wasn't fired, but I was quietly removed from the watch brand project. The golden ticket I'd worked toward for months?
Gone.
Dana moved out the following weekend. Said she needed time. Said she didn't know who I really was. Left the spare key on the table and took the cat. I'm now living in a half-empty apartment, blacklisted from major projects at work, and my reputation as the promising young exec has basically been torpedoed. All because I try to be clever with a photo. Take my advice. Never mix your camera roll with your work life. And maybe don't flirt with someone who isn't your girlfriend. TIFU by getting way too comfortable with my boss's dog. To set the scene, I work for a mid-sized tech company with a pretty casual, dog-friendly office culture. People bring in their dogs all the time, and it's usually a highlight of my day. My boss, who I'll call Sandra, is the VP of our department and generally intimidating in a no-nonsense kind of way. But she absolutely adores her dog, a sleek, over-pampered Italian greyhound named Vincent. Vincent is eccentric. He wears a coat even indoors, drinks filtered water, and has an Instagram with over 20K followers. Sandra treats him like a child. She refers to herself as mommy in relation to him, which is jarring when you hear it in a strategy meeting. Anyway, this all starts when Sandra was preparing for a big investor presentation in another city and needed someone to look after Vincent for 3 days. My team knows I love dogs and live close by, so they threw my name in. I thought, sure, I'll feed the little guy, walk him, maybe snap some photos for the gram. Easy points with the boss. Sandra gives me a detailed Google Doc titled Vincent's World with color-coded sections for feeding times, emotional states, his preferred type of background noise, French cafe music, and an emergency contact list that included her holistic vet and an animal communicator. No pressure, right? The first night goes fine. Vincent's standoffish, but tolerates me. He does this thing where he stares directly into your eyes while peeing, like he's judging your soul, but other than that, it's uneventful. I even get a cute boomerang of him doing a head tilt that Sandra reposts with 3 heart emojis. But the second day is when things go off the rails. I had just gotten back from the grocery store, carrying bags into the kitchen, when I heard a yelp from the living room. I sprint in and see Vincent shaking his tiny body, one paw raised like he'd stepped on a landmine. My heart stops. He limps over dramatically and lays down, nose pointed to the ceiling like a fallen soldier. Panicked, I scoop him up and examine the paw. No blood. No swelling. But he whines when I touch it. I try calling the holistic vet, but they're closed. So I go down the emergency list and end up on the phone with the animal communicator, who charges $75 for a remote empathic session. I'm desperate, so I Venmo her and wait. 10 minutes later, she texts me saying Vincent is in emotional distress. He's feeling misunderstood. Offer him warm quinoa and sing to him. I have no idea what that means, but I microwave some leftover quinoa and start softly singing Adele. Vincent doesn't eat the quinoa. He just sits there, judging me in silence. Then things get weird. Later that night, I decide to run a warm bath for myself and light some candles to calm my nerves. I shut the door but forgot how easily it swings open. I'm mid-bath, eyes closed, when I hear the tiniest click of toenails on tile. I open one eye, and there's Vincent, staring, not moving, just watching me bathe. I try to shoo him away, but he trots over and sits on the bath mat like some kind of Victorian chaperone. I'm not proud of what I did next, but I started talking to him. Like really talking. I told him about my job stress, my imposter syndrome, how I sometimes wonder if I peaked in high school orchestra. He tilted his head like he understood, occasionally blinking slowly like a therapist who's about to say something profound. Fast forward to the next morning. I wake up and realize I'm spooning Vincent. He had jumped into bed sometime in the night. There are crumbs in the sheets because I apparently shared a granola bar with him in my sleep.
We are bonded now.
I feel like we've been through war together. Sandra returns that evening. I tell her everything is fine, glossing over the emotional bath confessional and remote quinoa therapy. She picks up Vincent, who gives her the cold shoulder, then looks back at me with what I swear is a mournful expression. She laughs, says, "Wow, he really likes you," and I force a smile through the existential guilt. Here's where the real foo begins. 2 weeks later, we have our quarterly team meeting. Sandra starts off with the usual agenda, but then pauses and says, "Before we dive in, I just want to share something hilarious." My stomach drops. She pulls out her phone and starts playing a video of me in the bath, singing to Vincent. Candlelight flickering, bath bubbles strategically placed. I'm horrified. I can't even process how this happened until she adds, "Vincent has a pet cam necklace. It uploads automatically to his cloud account." Everyone loses it. People are crying with laughter. Sandra says I have the voice of a haunted Disney princess and makes it my Slack nickname. I have no choice but to lean into it. I start using Vincent reaction pics in my presentations. I pitch ideas with, "Vincent thinks this is a winner." I'm now the dog whisperer of the team, and it's become this weird badge of honor. I even made the company newsletter last month in a spotlight piece titled, "The Man Who Earned Vincent's Respect." Moral of the story? Never trust a dog with a cloud subscription. And if you do end up emotionally bonding with your boss's pet, at least wear more clothes when you sing Adele in a candlelit bathtub. To fool by pretending I knew how to juggle at a company talent show and causing a domino effect of HR disasters. Let me paint the scene. My company, a mid-sized tech firm, decided to host its first ever company culture carnival. Yes, that was the actual name. The idea was to have games, food trucks, a dunk tank featuring brave execs, and the crown jewel, an employee talent show. It was supposed to be a way to unwind, show off hobbies, and bond outside of Zoom calls and sprint reviews. Innocent enough. Here's the thing, I have no talents. Not in the charming, self-deprecating way. Legitimately none. I don't sing, I don't dance. I can't do stand-up without bombing like a World War II air raid. But for reasons I can't explain, when my team's Slack channel started buzzing about signing up for the talent show, I got hit by a wave of secondhand confidence and typed, "I can juggle." Just that. I can juggle. A sentence that has haunted me ever since. My manager, bless her too supportive soul, immediately replied with 10 clapping emojis and yes, that's awesome. Somehow, this snowballed into me being put on the official agenda. Not a side act. I was scheduled in the high-energy slot right after a magician from accounting who made a pencil disappear and before a product manager reading slam poetry about Jira tickets. Now, I could have backed out. I should have backed out. But I didn't. I did what any unqualified idiot would do. I went on YouTube, searched how to juggle 3 balls, and spent every night for the next week bruising myself in the face and knocking over lamps. By the morning of the carnival, I was barely able to manage 3 soft beanbags for more than 8 seconds before gravity gave me the finger. But again, I thought, how bad could it be? They'll clap politely, I'll drop a ball or two, it'll be charming. I'll get a slice of funnel cake and go home.
No.
It did not go that way. When my time came, they handed me the mic and hyped me up like I was about to pull a rabbit from my shoe. There were lights, a minor smoke machine. Someone had queued up the song Circus by Britney Spears, which I hadn't requested but now feels like a karmic omen. I stepped onto the small outdoor stage in front of at least 200 coworkers, including the CTO, 3 VPs, and my direct reports. I held up 3 juggling balls, actually 3 apples I stole from catering because I thought they'd make it look cooler. I took a breath. And then I threw. The first throw was fine. The second, slightly too high. The third, however, was ambitious. I launched it like a baseball pitch straight up, and by some act of cosmic cruelty, it arced perfectly into the face of Sharon from Legal, who had just stepped up to get a soda from the refreshment table directly next to the stage. There was a thwack, followed by a gasp, and then Sharon shrieking, "My eye," and clutching her face like I'd assassinated her with fruit. Silence. Utter, horrifying silence. Then chaos. Someone screamed, "Is there a medic?" There was not. Sharon's husband, who also worked in the company as head of compliance, sprinted across the lawn with the intensity of a linebacker. I was still standing there with 2 apples in my hands and the third rolling away like it was escaping the scene of a crime. HR ushered me off stage like a scandalized Miss America contestant. The magician from accounting offered me a cape to disappear. I declined. I was told to sit down and reflect. An ambulance was called, not because it was serious, but because Sharon insisted she had floaters in her vision and was worried about retinal detachment. Turns out she was mostly fine. The apple hit her glasses, which cracked, but her eye was untouched. Her pride, however, was obliterated. It didn't end there. Apparently, the fact that I used food instead of safe juggling equipment violated some internal event safety protocol, which I had unknowingly signed off on when I agreed to perform. That got flagged. Then Sharon's husband reported that the apples were gala apples. He has a mild apple allergy. He hadn't eaten one, but the exposure made his throat itchy. This was written in an actual HR email. The kicker? I was asked to write an apology letter. Not just to Sharon, but to the company culture committee, because I had undermined the spirit of the carnival. The phrase reckless fruit deployment was used. I had to attend a Zoom debrief titled Event Safety Best Practices. It was hosted by a very solemn intern who read from a PDF about why props are dangerous in amateur performances. People started calling me Gala, the Impaler. My Slack emoji became a flying apple. But that's not the worst part. A week later, someone uploaded a slow-motion video of the incident to the company intranet. Someone else synced it to the Curb Your Enthusiasm theme. It got 276 likes. The CEO commented, "LOL. Classic. The damn CEO. I haven't juggled since." I still can't make eye contact with Sharon. Her new glasses are very stylish, though. Moral of the story: never lie on Slack. And if you do, pick a talent that won't get you reported to HR and lightly sued by a couple with food sensitivities. So this happened a few months ago, but I'm only now recovering from the emotional shrapnel to even write about it. Strap in, it's a doozy. I, 29M, was flying from Seattle to Denver for a work conference. I had an early morning flight, and I just barely made it to my gate after fighting with TSA about the exact dimensions of my carry-on. I boarded, shuffled into my seat, and right as I'm trying to cram my bag into the overhead, I lock eyes with the woman sitting by the window. She gives me this deer in headlights look, then quickly leans toward me and says low and fast, "Please, pretend you're my boyfriend." Now, you've got to understand, I'm not the type to get involved in drama. I'm the guy who rewinds security footage at work 8 times to find where I dropped my pen. I avoid conflict like it's contagious. But something about her voice, the panic, the urgency, made me nod before I even thought about it. So I sit down. She immediately grabs my hand and says something like, "I'm so glad you made it, babe." Her voice is shaking. A Across the aisle, there's this older dude, maybe mid-50s, in business casual and wearing that smarmy smile that instantly made me want to punch him. He stares at her, glares. Then at me. I just nod at him, squeeze her hand a little. Play the role. The guy's name, as I later found out, was Ron. She whispered it to me after he got up to use the restroom for the second time in 10 minutes. Apparently, Ron was her ex-boss from her previous job, a VP at some tech firm she left under bad circumstances. She didn't go into detail, but I picked up enough to get the picture. He'd harassed her, she'd reported it, and suddenly she found herself downsized. The guy was a creep, and now he was sitting across from her for a 2.5-hour flight. So I leaned into the role. We joked, laughed, shared earbuds, mine, even took a stupid selfie together for show. I made up a story about how we met at a trivia night and how she beat me with her encyclopedic knowledge of obscure 90s cartoons. She played along perfectly. I even gave her my hoodie when she got cold, mostly to sell the image. We landed, and I thought that was that. She thanked me profusely, said I saved her from a full-on panic attack. I said it was no problem, shook her hand, and we went our separate ways. 2 weeks later, I get a call at work. I answer, and a very serious voice says, "Is this Andrew Caldwell?" That's me. "This is Detective Freeman with the Denver Police Department. We need to speak with you regarding an open investigation. Are you available to come in today?" At this point, I'm wondering what kind of Black Mirror episode I've stumbled into. Turns out the woman from the plane, her name was Elise, was under investigation for corporate espionage. Wait, what? Apparently, Ron had accused her of stealing proprietary data from the company's servers before she left. The company had filed a formal complaint. But that's not even the worst part. Remember that selfie we took on the plane?
Yeah.
Somehow that photo made it to Ron. I still don't know how. Maybe someone he knew saw it on her social media, or maybe Elise shared it to look more unbothered than she felt. The problem? I had my company badge around my neck. Fully visible. Name, logo, the works. Suddenly, I was implicated as an accomplice. They thought I helped her, that we were working together, that the whole fake boyfriend thing was a cover for us being co-conspirators in some weird data theft love story. I was interrogated for 3 hours. They searched my work laptop, my personal one, my phone. Meanwhile, I'm spiraling. HR gets involved. I'm suspended pending investigation. I try to reach Elise, but she's vanished. Phone disconnected, socials wiped, email bouncing. I'm left trying to explain to my boss and our legal department that I met this woman on a plane and I was just trying to be nice. You know what doesn't sound believable when said out loud? She asked me to pretend to be her boyfriend. For a while, I honestly thought I was going to get fired. Or arrested. Or both. Eventually, after weeks of internal and external investigations, they clear me. Turns out Elise didn't steal anything. The charges were dropped entirely. It was retaliation from Ron. Just him trying to destroy her life one more time, and I got caught in the collateral damage. But the damage to me? Not so easily undone. My company didn't fire me, but I didn't exactly walk back into open arms either. People talk. I went from that quiet guy in ops to, oh yeah, the guy who got interrogated by the cops. I lost a major client project because of reputational concerns. I stopped getting invited to team lunches. I basically became radioactive. And I never heard from Elise again.
So yeah.
TIFU by trying to help a stranger and accidentally inserting myself into a corporate cold war between a vindictive creep and a desperate woman just trying to escape him. If I could go back, I don't know if I'd do it differently. She needed help. And maybe I helped more than I hurt in the long run. But damn if I didn't torch my own reputation in the process. Let this be a lesson. Sometimes, a random act of kindness becomes a random act of career arson. This happened last weekend, and I'm still recovering from the emotional whiplash. For context, I, 29M, work at a mid-sized marketing firm. I'm relatively new, and I've been trying to make a good impression. My boss, Lauren, late 30s, super type A, intimidating in a high-functioning caffeine addiction sort of way, has a 6-year-old son named Dylan. Now, I don't usually get involved in coworkers' personal stuff, but we were at an after-hours networking event when Lauren mentioned in passing that her sitter bailed for Saturday. I, trying to be friendly and helpful and maybe curry some brownie points, said something like, "If you're desperate, I can keep an eye on him for a few hours." She froze, stared at me like I just offered to hold her newborn during a hurricane, then said, "You're serious?" Long story short, she took me up on it. She Venmo'd me $200, dropped Dylan off at my apartment at noon sharp on Saturday, and then bolted like she was trying to escape prison. Now, I don't have kids. I don't even have pets. But Dylan seemed chill at first. He had a tablet, a backpack full of snacks, and a very clear set of instructions from his mom typed out like a military op. I read through them, nodded sagely, and thought, how hard can this be? Mistake number one. The first couple hours went fine. We watched a Pixar movie, played a little Mario Kart, and I fed him some mac and cheese. But then he got bored. He asked if we could go to the park. The park is about 2 blocks away, very public, very safe. So I said sure, figuring fresh air would tire him out. Mistake number two. I packed some water, slapped a hat on him, and off we went. There were kids playing, dogs running around, that general hum of weekend suburbia. I sat on a bench while Dylan ran around, climbing the jungle gym and chasing squirrels. Then I got a text. It was from my neighbor, Sasha, asking if I still had her spare keys because she locked herself out. I told Dylan I'd be right back, jogged the half block to my building, literally 90 seconds away, tossed Sasha her keys, and ran back. Dylan was gone. I did a lap around the playground. Nothing. I checked the bathrooms, the bushes, even asked a couple of moms if they saw a kid in a red dinosaur shirt. One mom asked me if I was his dad. I said no, and she gave me a look like I just admitted I hang around playgrounds for fun. Panic started creeping in. I started yelling his name. A couple of people joined in. Someone called the park security, who radioed the cops. I felt like I was going to throw up. The cops showed up in under 10 minutes. I explained everything. They asked for the kid's full name, any allergies, what he was wearing, and then hit me with a big one. Did you have the mother's contact information? Now, I had her number, but Lauren had warned me she'd be at a silent meditation retreat for the afternoon. No phones, no reception. Of course. Because why wouldn't that be the case today? They asked me for my ID. I gave it. They started radioing around. A small search group was forming. One of the officers asked if Dylan had any history of running away. I didn't know. I was a coworker. Not family. Not even a real babysitter. Just some guy from marketing who had seriously overestimated his life skills. While this was happening, I had to give a statement. I described exactly what happened, how long I was gone, what he looked like. Then a woman approached us. Turned out she was a nanny for another family at the park, and said she saw a little boy walking down the path toward the pond 10 minutes ago.
Great. Pond.
That's exactly the kind of place you don't want a missing 6-year-old to be near. Cue more panic, more radio chatter. They start fanning out toward the pond. I'm stumbling along with them, imagining headlines like, "Office worker drowns boss's son," or "Marketing team suffers sudden layoff after babysitting catastrophe." Then, finally, we spot him. Dylan, blissfully unaware, is sitting on a bench near the pond feeding ducks with an old man. The relief was so intense I nearly collapsed. One of the officers walked over, gently took Dylan's arm, and asked him what he was doing. Dylan, in the most chipper voice imaginable, goes, "I found Grandpa Ted. Mommy says he's in heaven, but I think he just moved near the pond." The old man blinked and said, "I'm not Ted." After a lot of explaining and some awkward duck-feeding interruption, we pieced it together. Dylan saw the old guy, thought he looked like a photo he'd seen of his late grandfather, and decided to go hang out with him. No stranger danger instincts, just pure preschooler logic. I thanked everyone, apologized profusely, and walked Dylan back to my apartment with shaking hands. The old man waved goodbye, probably wondering if he was now a ghost. Lauren showed up at 6 o'clock on the serene and glowing from her retreat. "How was he?" she asked. I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Dylan ran to her and shouted, "We saw ducks." Lauren smiled like that was the most wholesome thing ever. I stared at Dylan, who gave me a sly look like we shared a war secret. I debated telling Lauren everything but decided against it. She was happy, Dylan was safe, and I was already emotionally exhausted. I did send a very long, honest email the next day, detailing the incident, apologizing again, and suggesting maybe hiring a professional next time. Lauren replied with a surprisingly calm, "Appreciate the honesty. He likes you. Maybe no more parks, though." The kicker? Monday morning, everyone at work somehow knew. One of the officers at the park was apparently the brother of our HR manager. I walked into the office to a round of applause. My new nickname? Uncle D. I'm never babysitting again. So this happened 2 nights ago, and I'm still trying to decide if I should quit my job or join a monastery in rural Tibet. I, 29M, work in corporate marketing for a mid-sized tech company. We've been remote for a while now, and I've started treating my work laptop like my personal device because, well, I live alone and nobody is around to judge me when I'm half-dressed, eating instant ramen over the keyboard. Recently, I decided to try speed dating online. Not Tinder or Bumble or any of that, like actual virtual speed dating via Zoom, hosted by some group that promised meaningful connections with minimal small talk. It sounded promising. I signed up, paid the $12 fee, because clearly I value love, and marked the calendar. Fast forward to Wednesday evening. I log into the Zoom link using my work laptop, because my personal one is on its deathbed and refuses to handle video calls without sounding like a plane taking off. I figure no big deal, it's just Zoom. Plus, I was running late from a team check-in call anyway, so I just switched meetings. And here's where the downward spiral begins. Because I was juggling my work call and the dating event, I didn't close out my shared screen. My previous Zoom meeting had me screen sharing a slide deck on Q2 engagement strategies to a bunch of half-interested coworkers. When I joined the dating Zoom, I didn't realize I was still broadcasting my screen, which, for some unfathomable reason, had minimized the PowerPoint and pulled up a Chrome tab I'd left open earlier. A Chrome tab titled, "Top 10 Questions to Ask If You're Desperate and Awkward During a Date." Not only that, but I had a second tab open to a Google Doc titled Project, Operation Wife, Phase 1, Don't Screw It Up. It was a joke doc I'd written after a few drinks, listing dumb personal goals like don't bring up exes, don't use the word moist, and try not to sweat like a hostage. And Zoom, in its infinite cruelty, had me screen sharing everything, including the tab names. I didn't notice. Not at first. I was too focused on adjusting my lighting, desk lamp balanced on a stack of cookbooks, and trying to look casually charming in a shirt that still had a faint ramen stain. The host began assigning people to breakout rooms, short 5-minute mini-dates, and I finally noticed the chat going wild in the main room. People were sending messages like, "Dude, are we supposed to be seeing this? Operation Wife. Bro, turn off your screen share. That doc is something." I looked up and saw the little green, "Your screen sharing" box. I froze. Panic sweat instantly broke out like a dam had burst. I scrambled to stop the screen share, fumbled the mouse, accidentally maximized the Operation Wife doc in glorious full screen, and made it 10x worse. I finally hit the red stop share button just as someone private messaged me, "Please never contact me." The damage was done. I tried to laugh it off in the first breakout room. So, that was embarrassing. At least I'm honest, right? The girl, bless her, gave me a tight smile and said, "I think you should consider therapy or maybe a journal." The next date was worse. The girl didn't say a word, just stared, then left the breakout room early. The third one started by saying, "You know, I've seen a lot of red flags, but broadcasting your desperate dating playbook to 40 strangers is a new genre." She was actually pretty funny, and we kind of bantered for the remaining 2 minutes, but I knew it was hopeless. Out of 9 mini-dates, 6 of them ghosted me mid-call. One guy, yes guy, I think the breakout system glitched, asked if I was running a dating cult or some kind of pyramid scheme. I tried to explain, but he left before I could say anything coherent. So I closed my laptop, sat in the darkness, and stared at the wall for a good 10 minutes. And here's the kicker. The next morning, I log into work and join our team meeting. The senior marketing manager goes, "Hey, I saw your name pop up in a public Zoom feed last night. Thought you were prepping for the presentation today. I laughed nervously and muttered something about user testing. He nodded, but I'm almost certain he knows. Later that day, I got a calendar invite titled 1:1 discussing personal branding. The HR rep was CC'd. I honestly don't know how this escalated from harmless speed dating to corporate HR might now be evaluating my meme-filled Google Docs for psychological risk. The only silver lining is this girl named Sarah messaged me on Instagram after the event. She said, "I was in that Zoom. You were a walking disaster. Want to grab a drink and tell me about phase 2 of Operation Wife? We've got drinks planned next week. But I still might delete my LinkedIn and move to Canada." So this happened last month, and it's been haunting me like a soggy goldfish ghost ever since. For context, I work as a junior project manager at a medium-sized tech firm. Nothing too crazy, lot of Trello boards, Slack messages, awkward coffee machine encounters. The usual. I've been working remote since COVID and just never came back full-time. Occasionally, we do in-office days. On those days, I bring lunch because the surrounding area is an overpriced labyrinth of quinoa bowls and artisanal water bars. That detail is relevant. Trust me. So, here's how I completely destroyed my reputation with one of our team leads, a guy named Marcus. Marcus is your standard overachieving, ultra-efficient, too-put-together dude. Always in performance fleece, has one of those emotional support water bottles he clutches like a baby koala, and is the kind of guy who says circle back unironically. We're not close, but we've worked on a couple of small projects together, and I've always tried to stay on his good side. Anyway, last month we had an in-person day. I brought my lunch in a plastic bag, leftover salmon, a pretty pungent one, I'll admit, rice, and some steamed broccoli. The Tupperware lid didn't snap right, so everything marinated into this nuclear smell by the time lunch rolled around. I took it to the tiny office kitchenette and microwaved it for 2 minutes. That was mistake number 1. You know how some fish smells just explode in a microwave? This was not that classy restaurant salmon smell. This was we left to harbor in a gym bag kind of fish. The second I opened the microwave, the stench hit me so hard, I actually recoiled. And just as I'm leaning back, trying to process the olfactory assault, Marcus walks in. He stops in the doorway, his face contorting like I just slapped him with a wet sock. "What is that?" he says. Now, I should have just told the truth. That it was a badly packed lunch. But in a moment of sheer panic, and maybe secondhand fish fume brain damage, I blurted, it's for my fish. I'm feeding them." He stares. "You're feeding your fish?" I nod.
Yeah.
"They like it warm. Spoiled, you know." There's a long pause. His eyes narrow. "You brought salmon to feed your fish?" I panic again. Why did I say that? What kind of serial killer feeds salmon to fish? Not like that. It's enrichment. It's an aquarium thing. Enrichment food. Like simulating predator sense to engage their instincts. He blinks. "You keep predator fish?"
Sure.
And because the universe is cruel, someone else walked in right then, my manager, Leslie, asking about some dumb report. So Marcus walks off, face full of quiet judgment, and I think, well, that was weird, but it's over. Oh no, it was not over. A couple days later, I get a Slack from Marcus. "Hey, mind if I ask what kind of predator fish you keep? I've always been fascinated by exotic aquariums."
What the hell?
Apparently, my lie triggered something in him. I could have just come clean. But instead, I panicked harder and doubled down. I said I had an indoor aquatic ecosystem with a few oddball species. I didn't even Google anything. I just made it up. He replied almost instantly. "That's awesome. Would love to see pics sometime."
Cool.
Cool. I am now an aquarium guy. A guy who feeds cooked salmon to a group of mysterious predator fish for enrichment. So, I do what any logical person does. Spend the entire night learning about exotic fish. So, I don't sound like a lunatic. I Google rare aquarium fish, memorize a few species like arowana, peacock bass, electric blue acara, and even download a couple photos from Instagram to show him later. I had no plan beyond this. I figured if I built enough of a lore bubble, it'd eventually blow over. Except it didn't. The next in-person day, Marcus corners me by the coffee machine and launches into this full monologue about his childhood pet turtle, his dream of building a custom tank, his failed reef setup in college, and how he's been dying to meet someone else into the scene. I nod and lie and nod and lie, until he finally asks, "So, how big is your tank?" I say, like 200 gallons. That's apparently enormous. His eyes light up like a kid at SeaWorld. He says, "That's insane. You must be filtering like, what, 3-stage canisters? Sump or no sump?" My brain just blue screens. Sump.
Sweet.
Any UV sterilizers?
Yep.
2. He is in awe. I am sweating. This man now believes I am running a high-end, borderline professional aquarium setup out of my apartment in the middle of the city. I have now lied to this man's soul. Fast forward a week. I get an email from HR. Nothing serious, just one of those social bonding things. Office pet day. Bring a picture of your pet to share with the team.
Cool, whatever.
I find a stock photo of a fish tank, slap it in the group email with the subject line "The Boys," and throw in some made-up names like Blazer, Echo, and Dr. Fins. The very next day, Marcus stops by my desk. "I showed your tank pic to my buddy who builds custom aquariums," he says, beaming. He says that's not a 200-gallon. Looks like a stock photo. "Where'd you get that setup?" I freeze.
Oh,
Yeah, that was an older pic. I've upgraded since then. Didn't have a good one on hand. He nods slowly. "You mind if I stop by sometime? I'd love to see it in person." And that, friends, was my breaking point. I couldn't keep the lie alive. I came clean. I told him everything. How the salmon incident spiraled into a panic lie, which spiraled into Google rabbit holes and stock photos, and how I had never, in fact, owned a single fish in my entire life. He just stared at me for a long time. Then he said quietly, "You made up an entire aquarium because your lunch smelled bad?" I nodded. He walked away. I have not spoken to Marcus since. He avoids eye contact. He left our Slack group for project coordination. He now refers to me, I heard this through the grapevine, as Finding Nemo.
so yeah.
TIFU by becoming the mysterious fish guy, completely fabricating an elaborate lie that snowballed into a full-blown aquatic identity crisis and destroying any chance of being taken seriously by the one person who thought I was cool. I still eat salmon, but only cold, and only in shame. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss new videos. Also, leave a comment. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Your support and engagement mean a lot to me. See you in the next video.